The following podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts of Hope Matters and HopeMatters.Life are peer recovery specialists sharing lessons learned from lived experiences, research, and psychological training. These podcasts are not intended to replace treatment from mental health professionals.
Today, a special treat. Many of us are afraid of contracting the coronavirus. We question whether we can trust media reports about the disease and if isolation caused by quarantines may actually affect our mental health. While our next guest, a mental health and systems expert, has battled it all. He is the CEO and founder of a global mental health organization, and he's joining us today. He's here to offer his perspectives on our adaptation to information environments, how they complicated his own bout with COVID-19, and what we can all do about it. We're calling this episode Hope with Hals, and it starts right now on HopeMatters.Life.
Welcome to Hope Matters, right here on HopeMatters.Life, where hope brings health.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of HopeMatters.Life. I'm Louie.
And I'm Jamie.
And we're both the founders of this very podcast. Our previous shows included a two-part series called Hidden Hope in Media Mayhem. That was when we shared bombshell after bombshell from inside the media, including details on how news is structured, how widespread technology has caused an information environment to emerge, how our brains are adapting to the information environment in the same way that our ancestors adapted to their environments, and how even in all this hoopla, hope can still be found. And today, we crawl a little deeper down the rabbit hole.
Did you know that due to the widespread distrust of the news, many people have been dismissing media warnings about the coronavirus? It's true. And for many, the results have been deadly. It's as though some media managers have cried wolf for so long that we have learned to ignore the news. And that has made us more vulnerable to real wolves, in this case, the coronavirus. Some see crying wolf as a hard-earned freedom of the press. Others see it as a threat to our freedom. But either way, the issue must be discussed if we are to find the hope and the health that we desire. That is one of the many missions of HopeMatters.Life.
Now, since the information environment is just one of countless systems, we have a very special guest today to address that matter. He's a seasoned systems expert out of New York City, a licensed social worker with decades of experience, and is also the CEO and founder of the uber-successful Windows of Opportunity, also called WOO.
WOO is a 501c3 organization that has gone global. It has helped kids all over the world and is now joining forces with other international organizations to help improve systems in ways that promote mental health.
Please join us in welcoming over the phone HopeMatters.Life's good friend, Hal Eisenberg.
All right, Hal, we're on. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Louie and Jamie. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
All right, so first things first, what inspired you to start Windows of Opportunity?
I founded it in memory of my aunt who lost her life. She was a first responder during 9/11, and she was the person in my life that was teaching me values and hope at the time, and I was kind of a little bit of this lost soul, not knowing, what direction to go in and what tomorrow brings. And I always had this idea of helping other teens or helping other youth, and she was the one that was always pushing me to go after your dreams. So after she passed, that was my catalyst to start Windows of Opportunity. And fast forward now, I've reached 250,000 kids who have created programs and impact around the planet. And now it's evolved into us creating an educational reform framework, because now we're talking about shifting systems and we're talking about shifting the education system, because we're really starting to see that we're living in a new world and we need to really respond to that in a healthy way.
It's really beautiful that you honored your aunt in that way.
Yeah, so many teens are benefiting too.
It's incredible. You just mentioned systems, and we'll absolutely get to that. But first, I'd like to talk about something else. As we mentioned earlier, you live in New York City, and New York has been dubbed ground zero of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, from what I understand, due to your own concerns over media legitimacy, you nearly lost your own life. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about that so others will take the coronavirus warnings more seriously?
So, first of all, I want to start by saying I really love what you and Jamie are doing. Your show, your mission, your message, and I bring that up before I share the story with you, is because I was one of those people that was anti-news.
Right.
I was one of those people that was like, I'm shutting off the news. It's negative energy. It's making me feel horrible. I don't like it. And I was the same way when all the coronavirus, the COVID-19 scare came about. I was like, oh, this is not real. This is wrong. I'm not paying attention. They're just trying to build fear into us. And then 2 days later, I started showing symptoms. Within a week, I was in the hospital. I was diagnosed positive with COVID-19.
Oh, wow.
I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. It's now been a month and a half, and I'm still actually struggling a little. I'm negative now, but I went through a really, really, really scary time. I was literally on my deathbed, and I really thought I was about to say goodbye.
Oh, my goodness. That would have been terrible.
Yeah, and if you did lose that fight, not only would we miss you, but countless teens would miss out on your impact to their lives. Thank goodness you're okay and made it through. And as we understand it, though, some of the people you were with in the hospital weren't so lucky.
Right. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I had an older gentleman next to me who passed away, and a guy next door to me that had cardiac arrest.
Oh, no.
And seeing those horrors, like, with your own eyes is like, it does something to you. And thank God I had a really close friend that was on the phone with me when I was like ready to give up and said, you have a choice in this moment. Do you want to choose life or do you want to choose death? And I stopped for a second and I had this aha moment. And the aha moment said, of course I want to choose life. Like, this world is beautiful and there's just so much more to do and so much more people to inspire, and there's so much possibility that can come from experiencing this horror. There's a lot of people still talking negative. There's a lot of confusing information out there. But the truth of the matter is, this is a true opportunity for us to talk about what kind of world do we want to live in? What is Earth 2.0 going to look like for ourselves individually and as a collective planet?
Okay, so all that being said, what do you think would be a healthier way for people at home to view the media in Earth 2.0?
I love that question, and I think it's a complicated answer, Louis. I think there's probably a couple of different ways to really look at shifting different systems like the media. And I think, in my personal opinion, it really starts with ourselves as individuals.
Sure.
I have the vantage point of loving education and starting with youth. And my concept is, if we could create youth to understand how their bodies work and understand how their minds work and how it connects to their emotions and values and how to be optimal in our world, we'll be creating 21st century thinkers that will then be going into systems like the media and also be like shifting those systems, because they'll be bringing those values into those systems. That's a long haul system shift.
I love it.
I was listening to one of your previous shows where you made the really valid point that there are a lot of good journalists out there. There's always those few bad apples, but there's a lot of good people out there that don't want to truncate their stories, don't want to give wrong information, and are probably feeling like, how do I make this system better? I think we need to start having conversations with those like-minded thinkers, no matter what the system is. The medical system, I saw so many things in the hospital that was broken about the medical system. The media system, the education system, healthcare, whatever system is around us, especially the political system. Like, there's a lot of good people out there that want to not only see change, but they want to understand why they're feeling what they're feeling.
I completely agree.
So let's start having those conversations. Let's start having programs to help people feel more optimal. And let's take that into these systems. And then I think you're going to start to see a shift, especially now. I really, truly, truly believe my biggest message now is Corona is not the enemy. It's the message. And how are we going to respond in a really awesome and healthy way for ourselves?
Right.
Very well said, my friend. Now, for those people at home who don't understand the difference between a systems approach and a one-on-one approach that someone might see in a therapist's office, would you mind clarifying things for us?
Yeah, sure. I remember being in college. I won't admit how many years ago that was, and I remember talking about systems theory, and the way the professor explained it, my whole body lit up. I'm a social worker. I do individual counseling. Individual counseling is almost sometimes like a marriage. You have to connect to somebody's energy, and it's one-on-one, and going back and forth, and there's you can have certain different type of counseling theories that you use to guide people through that conversation, and it's rewarding. It's really amazing where you could take an individual from point A to point Z in an empowering fashion, which I love doing. But when I heard about systems theory, it just opened up this whole world for me, where that one person that's in the middle circle that you're working with is impacted by the family system around there, and that family has friends, and there's the school, and there's your peers, and you realize if you put them all in these different circles or bubbles, they're all interacting with each other.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a big, gigantic puzzle of information that we're taking in. We take in information from the media. We take in information from our friends. We take information in from the internet, and how are we taking that in, and how are we swallowing that, and how is it mixing with our system? There's science now that says negativity coming in is going to produce negativity going out, and if we can get really, really focused and centered on that, that's a really, really powerful message.
Absolutely.
And it also shows you how much control you can have on your health if you're really, really present to how we're taking in that information and interpreting it and what it's doing to our body. So that's why I fell in love with the whole concept of shifting systems.
That's interesting. A paradigm shift that HopeMatters.Life has been introducing to the public is something we call information environments. That's where devices like smartphones, TVs, computers, and the like so immerse us in information that it basically becomes a new environment and our brain's adapting.
And when the information environments are saturated with trauma and trauma-focused information, you just got to watch out for it. But the good news is that the state of the world, the one that we really live in, the real world, is absolutely more beautiful than what some of those information environments would imply.
Now, since both environments, the information environment and our literal environments, are actually systems, do you find comfort in knowing that there's a difference between two?
100% yes, and it's definitely a difference. And there's also, in my opinion, an interaction, right? So the physical world is honestly tremendously a lot more beautiful than I think most people realize, and I don't want to say everyone, because there are a lot of people that are kind of awakening now to the beauty. Right now I'm looking out the window and I'm seeing a bunch of trees, and I'm seeing the leaves bloom, and I love that energy where I'm taking it in. That's a lot different than me turning on the TV or my computer and, listening to information coming into me from that source. And when I let that into this environment, now I'm letting negativity into that environment, and I'm ignoring the beauty around me, right? And right. I have to physically stop, and I need the tools and resources to stop and look out my window and say, I want to separate that information coming in, and I want to be really present to this beauty, because my body actually feels better when I'm looking at these beautiful leaves, when I'm looking at the beautiful grass, or I'm at the beach and I'm looking at the beautiful water. There's so much positivity out there on this planet.
That's beautiful. What words of encouragement could you offer to somebody who is perhaps single and living alone, and the only environment they have, or the only environment they think they have, is the information environment? Would you say they're 100% susceptible to whatever information they glean via electronic means, or is there something else in addition to being present? Is there something else, words of encouragement that you think you could offer?
There's two things. There's two things I would love to respond to that question. So there's a lot of confusion out there, and there's a lot of misinformation. I think if you have your basic needs met, you are home, you have food, you have water, you have a roof over your head, you have someone to speak to, you are 100% safe. There's nothing to worry about. There are a lot of people out there who are working toward what the solutions are. And if we get caught up in the negativity and the news and the misinformation, it's going to feed that hopelessness. But there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of beauty coming out of this, which was my second point, Lou, I really wanted to make to help people feel more comfortable. What I'm really loving about now is things like your show, things like I'm working with this amazing organization in Canada called the Passion Center, and that's CENTRE, how the French spell it, right? And we're creating programs now so that people at home can have the opportunity to look at their lives and figure out how to be optimal and what the next steps are. This is all being in response to what's happening today. There's a lot of these coming out of the woodworks now to kind of like help spread that hope.
Wow, that's brilliant. Would you like to talk more about Windows of Opportunity and how it's working with the Passion Center in Canada?
Yeah, I actually would love to do that. I feel very, very blessed. Through some networking and some leadership programs that I was running globally, I had made a couple of trips to Toronto, and I met a lady named Kira Day, who is the CEO founder of an organization called the Passion Center, and we were instantly aligned, and we were talking about these programs that she was creating. She gets mistaken a lot as a life coach, but really she's just a lot more scientific based, and she really goes within, and she's really like helping like corporate officials and adults. And what we started doing was, when we were looking at her programs, they were 100% aligned to my programs, except I was going in and working with high schools and with youth and kids and helping them to be optimal. So we were like, hey, wait, we talk similar language. What would it look like if we've got ourselves and other people who were talking similar language and wanted to do something bigger to get together and create something? And then when this COVID hit, that just kind of lit that spark a little bit more. And we're now creating a program called Optimize You, which is talking about everything that we talked about on this show. And it's super powerful, and I'm super excited about seeing it out in the world. And I think it's going to really talk about shifting our systems individually within so that we can respond to the systems outside of ourselves and help them shift all in a positive way. And that's happening right at the same time that my education framework that I'm also creating with the same company is going to go into schools and help them to be more optimal with the students that they work with. So there's so many exciting projects coming out.
Oh, Hal, you're incredible. And we grew up together.
We
live in a fantasy.
We were we were in a band. Am I allowed to say that on your show, Louie? Like, we were in a band, and you know what? Talk about dreams coming true. Like, I said back then, in my innocent, whatever it was, 12, 13, 14-year-old self, that our band was going to be on a show one day. It was going to be on a radio, and I just got to mention our band was called Space, and see, my dream just came true. We were on the radio.
Awesome.
I love it.
That is wonderful. That's awesome.
You guys are too funny. That's great. But back to systems and stuff. How dangerous do you think information environments really are?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. One of the things that I do in one of my lessons, and I do a few lessons in some of my curriculums in schools about the media, and one of the questions I ask to students is, do you think the media has a responsibility to how society takes in the information? For example, when you talk about beauty and body image, and you look at magazine covers, and you know that they Photoshop everybody, and you're sitting on the supermarket line and you're like, oh, I wish I looked like that. Or how to lose 20 pounds in 10 days and get ready for bathing suit season, and do they have a responsibility about, talking about different body types and how to eat healthy and what is healthy living and what is optimal living? So it's really, it's an interesting question, because I don't think, as you mentioned on your previous show, that when you're in a system and you're forced to be locked into certain time frames, or you have to get information out quicker, I don't think you're purposely having the attention, or not everybody is purposely having the intention to send out dangerous information. However, with that said, the information is affecting us, and I think that goes back to how we were all raised, and how we aren't armed with the resources to cipher through the information. We're not even understanding information systems. We're not even understanding how our brain communicates with the different parts of our body, how the information comes into us, and how it's linked to different diseases and health issues. I think if we start with ourselves individually and we learn how our entire system works, then we'll be armed and empowered to say, this is how I want to show up, this is what I want to take in, this is how I want to strengthen my positivity, this is how I want to clear my mind, because I'm in control of this vessel and I am going to be healthy. And if we have everyone then on the planet coming at it from that vantage point, then the systems are going to automatically shift, because the people in those systems will be showing up that way and looking for different healthier solutions for themselves and how we're connecting one another. So sometimes I wonder, is it really about the system, or should we be looking at all the individuals within the system and how to make that more optimal, so then the domino effect will be, the system will be better?
Wow, Hal, that's wild. That's exactly why we're doing this show, what we would like to accomplish as well.
Exactly.
Right. Since our podcast is now part of the information system, we're trying to introduce new ideas that will hopefully inspire major players in that system to adjust their approaches to information sharing and our approaches to digesting that information.
Also, if I may, I'd like to take a stab at the question as to whether the media has a responsibility to stop censoring information for financial gain. By that I mean censoring out who we are as imperfect humans in order to imply superhuman results when you use their products. I think that before the internet came to be and before our new digital world made information immersion commonplace, censorship and informational systems may have had less of an impact on our lives. I think that's because it played a much smaller part in our lives compared to the vastness of our physical environments. Today, though, becoming immersed in digital information has become such a mainstay of modern living that, for many, the scale has tipped in favor of information systems in contrast to the physical systems around us, like the environment. So perhaps, maybe, if we globally accept the notion that information environments have emerged and that they can affect our brains in the same way that physical environments used to, then maybe players in the industry will see that they now do have a responsibility for the well-being of their patrons, and therefore naturally explore healthier ways to share their information. Now, it should be noted that we at home are also on the hook for learning how to digest information in healthier ways. Sometimes the information itself is to blame, sure, but other times the fault lies with perceptive filters we use to interpret information of all kinds.
100%, and that's actually in the Optimize You curriculum. And how are we wired, right? How do we capture that film from that experience when we were younger, and how is it on replay so that when something sparks that impact or that memory, we're reacting a certain way, which is sometimes not healthy at all. So it gets really deep, Louie and Jamie, and that's okay, because I think we need to do that and not be scared of that, so that we can really just show up the way we want. We all have dreams. We all have this light inside of us, and if we can connect to that and learn about how we operate, then all those dreams can come true, and there's all this possibility, and there is all this hope on this planet. 7.2 billion people, like, we could really transform this planet if we just learn all this amazing information about how we operate.
Amen. Amen. So Hal, you are absolutely amazing as always. If people wanted to contact you in regard to Windows Opportunity, how would they get a hold of you? How would they be able to contact the organization? And what would they get out of it?
So there's a few ways that you can contact me. I would definitely say my email is hal@wooinc.org. That's WOOINC. My phone number, 718-916-6037. My Instagram is Windows of Opportunity 88. Contact me any of those ways. If you contact me, let's just start by having a conversation. So if you're part of a school system, or you're an administrator, or even if you're a teacher or a student and you want to learn how to get information into your school or into your district, I can send you all that material and we can talk about that. If you're looking for some individual hope and inspiration and programs, also contact me, or also look up that other website that I talked to you about, thepassioncenter.com, CENTRE. All those programs are laid out there, and they're super empowering, and there's contact information on that website as well. My thing is, let's have a discussion. Maybe we'll even strike up a friendship, even if it doesn't go anywhere.
That's wonderful. Well, I have a feeling that several people are going to be calling you based on this podcast alone. So Hal, thank you so much for giving us some of your time, sir. Have a speedy recovery.
I want to thank you both from the bottom of my heart for having me. I look forward to more talks and just, keep up the awesome, magical work that you guys are doing.
Oh, you too, my friend, you too.
Wow, it has been an honor interviewing such a wonderful guest. Hal is such a wealth of knowledge that we can all feel better knowing people like him are out there with our well-being in mind. I think we should support Hal and others like him as we all move towards what he calls Earth 2.0.
So I believe the hope in this podcast and the past several podcasts can be found by learning to admit to ourselves day after day that there exist different systems. There's the system we call the information environment. But there's also another system. It's the system that gives us air and wind and rain and sun. It's the system that keeps us alive. So when we occasionally have to check the information industry for new information, if we begin to get stressed or overwhelmed, we can remind ourselves that it is not the real system. It's only showing glimpses of the real system. So if we turn off the information and reconnect to the system that gives us life, we may be surprised at how it gives us mental health as well. Thank you for listening to our latest episode of HopeMatters.Life, where hope brings health.